they shoot people, and they're not culpable at all. And it's got to stop.
Hi, I'm Tracy Oppenheimer for ReasonTV. Today we're talking with Mike Boutin. He's one of the cast members of the upcoming Discovery Channel show Weed Country. It's premiering this Wednesday, February 20th, and let's take a look.
It's a decades-old battle between cops, dealers, and growers, using 21st century science to make the most powerful weed on earth.
Arguably, I just committed a felony.
This is the story about America at war with itself.
Mike, thanks for talking with us.
Glad to be here.
Weed Country covers all angles of the marijuana industry. You have growers like yourself, dispensary owners, law enforcement, and patients. So what do you as a grower bring to the table?
Well, I think that we give people a sort of a look behind the veil. Everybody's got their own conception about what I do, what people like me do, and of course, not everybody's the same. And so I think that people get a chance to see what somebody who's trying to do the right thing by people does with marijuana.
It's like you're a vigilante, you're fighting back against the war on drugs. So talk about your fight a little bit and some of the obstacles you've had to overcome.
Well, I've used marijuana since I was 17 years old, and I've always had to try to stay out of trouble with it. I've been successful at that, but when I realized what it had done for me and what it could do for other people, and when you learn all of the reasons why marijuana shouldn't be criminalized, you sort of become responsible for the information. And I just decided to do something. I really didn't want to live in a world where they haul people off to jail for using a substance that's safer than alcohol.
Yeah, and on the show you see these law enforcement officers coming in with camo, helicopters, automatic weapons, and I know that's not for the show, that's actually what happens. So why all the violence?
It's a jihad. It's ego. It's a jihad, and it's a cult. That's exactly what it is. These guys, for the most part, see, they blur the lines. They blur the lines between cartel and medical marijuana. Now, if you're going to go out in the forest after some cartel guys, I mean, I'd root you on to be putting on that body armor, having those automatic weapons. But when you're talking about a guy who lives in a house down on Main Street, he's not going anywhere. He has a job. You know where he's at. You could do your intelligence. You don't need to go kick in his door with a SWAT team and brutalize his family and shoot their dog. And what if they get the wrong house, which happens all the time? They shoot people, and they're not culpable at all. And it's got to stop.
I know you're really a proponent of medical marijuana because it helps people, and law enforcement just doesn't see it like that. Where do you think the disconnect comes in?
You know what I think the disconnect is, and it's going to make people angry that I say this, but you know, marijuana users, the community as a whole, if you want to call it that, is a lot like an iceberg. Most of it is out of sight, but what can be seen is ominous. And so their correlation causation model gets all turned on its head, because I've heard police officers say, I've never dealt with a heroin addict that didn't have marijuana. And so they think there's this progression. They think that marijuana leads to all these other things, so they're more than happy to go after marijuana users.
But it does seem like our culture is shifting right now, and on the show you're helping a former NYPD officer. I'm not going to give too much away,
Right.
But this makes for an interesting dynamic because you're helping him, the other officers are after you. How did this play out in the show?
I have no problem with the fact that he's an ex-narcotics officer, because he's a legitimate medical marijuana patient. That was a segment of his life where he was required to toe the party line. You know, everybody uses the Nuremberg defense. I'm just doing my job. And, you know, I'll give him a free pass on that. But I think it moves the conversation. I think it does. When ex-narcotics officers are using medical marijuana to heal themselves because modern medicine does not have an answer for them, I think that's pretty powerful.
But what about your own safety? I mean, what's stopping you from being thrown in jail right now?
Nothing. The whim of law enforcement. And I'm not worried about that. I'm really not worried about that. I don't want to come off and sound like, oh, you know, I'm a martyr. I'm looking forward to jail. No, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want anybody else to go to jail for marijuana, though, either. If nobody steps up who will. I mean, I just feel compelled to step up regardless of the consequences.
But you did say the conversation is moving forward. How does this show really help with that?
Well, I think the conversation gets moved forward with this show because it really is a fair look at 360 degrees. And I think that the viewer is going to be able to sort it out from their living room without the pressure of somebody elbowing them trying to get them to line up on their side.
And this is really mainstreaming. Do you think this will be a big boost for support?
I think it will. I think it will because I think the people suffer for lack of knowledge. That's what it is. It's lack of knowledge. People just don't know. They've been indoctrinated. They've had campaigns of reefer madness, and 80 years. Now, when alcohol prohibition was repealed, it was within 12 years. Everybody alive knew what it was like before alcohol prohibition started, and they knew that alcohol prohibition was worse than the alcohol being in society. And we're 80 years removed from Americans being able to utilize the marijuana plant in all of its forms and all that it can do. And so the education campaign is so uphill because we're up against the disinformation arm of the United States government. We're up against the man in blue who doesn't lie. Well,
Mike, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
And remember to tune in this Wednesday, February 20th at 10 p.m. to watch Weed Country on Discovery Channel. For ReasonTV, I'm Tracy Oppenheimer.